This is a clip from our stream with Philip Bloom talking about the new A7s Mark III. We got lots of questions from our customers about raw output of the A7s Mark III because Philip was one of the very few people to get access to both a pre-production camera as well as the new beta firmware from Atomos for their Ninja 5 to record its raw output. So naturally there were lots of questions about raw and what that workflow was like.
So the Atomos, as far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong, the only RAW they record these days is ProResRAW, isn't it? Yep. I think. Yep, and that is 12-bit. So that's it. So they used to, in the old days, record Cinema D and G, but they don't do that anymore. It's ProResRAW, which is maxed at 12-bit. I do not know whether there is some clever 16-bit to 12-bit or whether it's just taking... I have absolutely no idea. The version that I used anyway was like one of the very first betas. So it worked. It froze a few times. It wasn't quite filling the whole frame. There's just a few glitches, but it was because it was a beta version, but it was easily good enough to shoot with. It did raise some interesting questions for me because it was coming up as 4.2K. And I was like, why is it 4.2K? And then, of course, if you look at the actual resolution of the sensor, it reminds you that although people are often saying they're sampling 1:1 on this camera, but they're not. They're not sampling 1:1 because the sensor is not 3840 wide, it's 42 something. So there is a small amount of downsampling there. They're not cropping, whereas some of the older A7, I think the A7s II had a slight crop in 4K, maybe not, I can't remember. Anyway, so there is a slight downsampling going on there, and the Atomos, even though it was because it was beta, so it's like even though it was recording 4.2K, for some reason it was giving me a slightly less field of view, and I was like, the mathematics do not add up there. How can it have more pixels yet be showing less? So, but it's all going to be perfect and match when it comes out, whenever it comes out. But there's definitely advantages to the ProResRAW, but there's also definitely advantages to recording internally. In fact, because it's internal, the internal codec, even the basic ones are quite good. But as I say, the I codec is great. If you just want more flexibility, and ProResRAW is opening up now, so we have software called Scratch from a company called Assimilate, which gives you the proper raw controls that we've been missing in Final Cut and Premiere. Premiere's the worst with ProResRAW. It's got just an exposure slider, and that's it. So Scratch gives you three controls. It gives you your ISO, your white balance, and your tint. So we have some proper controls.
Which is about time. I think Scratch is quite an expensive piece of software still, though, isn't it?
It's free. It's free right now. It's free right now, month by month. But then it won't be free.
It won't be again.
We
really need is Resolve
to open up.
And we need support in Resolve. I think they will have to at some point. I think they will have to because Resolve is not just a Blackmagic tool for Blackmagic cameras. It is a pro grading tool that is, lots and lots of very professional high-end colorists use Resolve day to day, and they need to be able to just edit and color whatever is sent to them by their client. Otherwise they will kick up, believe me, the biggest fuss.
But you've seen the way that Resolve handles different types of RAW. The only time it gives you the full control of RAW now is in B-RAW. Which is like, oh, great. Well, where's the raw? And
I'm sure they will do something like that. I'm sure they will do something like that. But hopefully, at least they will give us support to bring it in, to grade it, to play it back. Hopefully, I'm still holding a hope. I know there's lots of conflict of interest there, and it's possible that they will sort of the business will defeat the consumer sense. But I'm still holding out hope.
I mean, the workflow that I was using, I was using Final Cut Pro 10 because it's got a key thing which makes it easier to work with. You simply convert a touch of a button. You convert the ProResRAW to S-Gamut3, S-Log3, S-Gamut3 Cine, and it's great. So you can work with it as log, which is natural to me, and then you also have the ability to add the LUTs if you want to there to work with it, and that's how I actually work. That's how I edited the other piece using that.
the way Apple intended.
Because I find the Premiere handling of it is just horrendous. So yeah, it works, but it's just hard work.
Absolutely. So Blue Garnet Films is asking, what's the bit rate like when outputting that 16-bit RAW? And I assume it's the bit rates of ProResRAW, because the only thing
it's ProResRAW or ProResRAW HQ.
Yeah, and that's the only way that you can record it, because that's Atomos at the moment is the only device that supports it, and therefore you need that to do it. And that's the same with all the other cameras like the A7s III that we've seen that now support ProResRAW recording over HDMI, which is a very interesting and very specific type of protocol, presumably, and Atomos are the only ones right now that are doing it. And so whether you're using the S1H or this or whatever other camera that you've got that does it, you're limited to ProResRAW, and the bit rates would all be dictated by the bit rates of ProResRAW natively.
Yeah, and of course would be affected by the resolution. So if you've got a 5.7K RAW, then that will be obviously slightly higher. I'm just going to open up one and just see what my inspector says of my clip here. And it says it is 1.27 gigabits a second. This is for 50p.
Okay.
So halve that if you want normal speed.
That's only 600. That's not crazy high bit rates for RAW. That's actually...
So ProResRAW is the same size, normal ProResRAW is the same size as ProRes HQ.